intelligent applications that I was referring to, or the innovative applications, are all based on cloud computing concepts. Just where we are as a market, no application vendor designs applications to be installed as clients on devices anymore. That just doesn't happen. So whether we're talking about mobile TV, whether we're talking about voice over IP, digital shopping mall, online gaming, all of that actually is hosted through cloud. So I think it's kind of one and the same. When we talk about next generation value-added services, those are the cloud services. We're transitioning away from things like ringtones and wallpapers into applications and videos and maybe music downloads. And what you'll see inside the demo truck is all hosted as a cloud application. So when we talk about cloud computing, that's a little bit different. Of course, the market here, a telco operator, is probably not going to invest millions and millions of dollars in building a huge cloud computing data center. Instead, they will have a small version of a cloud to run the applications. When we talk about cloud computing as an industry, normally we're talking about the very large telco players that have hundreds of million subscribers, or we're talking about very large enterprises. And in that case, we're building huge data centers with switches and routers and servers and storage. So even though we kind of use the word cloud and cloud computing interchangeably, it's not quite the same thing. So from a telco perspective, when they buy into the cloud, they will probably use the words value-added services that are hosted in the cloud. Where when an enterprise invests in the cloud, it's more traditional cloud computing. So it's not quite the same, but similar products. So we can actually build the data center for the telco. In some cases, that data center will be used for hosting those value-added applications. But normally that data center is to support enterprise. Technically speaking, those are cloud services, but we don't classify that the same way as a cloud data center. Those are standalone products that they sell. They may physically sit in a particular rack of equipment that looks like a very small data center, but that's not normally what we're talking about when we talk about cloud computing, which is usually defined by scale. If it's large scale, we call it cloud computing. If it's smaller scale, we don't normally use that terminology. In terms of your question, those solutions, what we consider cloud, will fit inside innovative applications. Enterprises to invest in infrastructure, and some of those enterprises may choose to invest in large data centers. For example, if you approach a company that's the size of Coca-Cola, a company that size could easily build out their own data center infrastructure. So we do pursue large enterprises like that. At the same time, we also encourage telcos to look at enterprise as a new source of business. So traditionally, maybe they go after end users like us, with cell phones, with tablets, with DSL connections. But they can also make revenue by pursuing small and medium enterprises. Those small and medium enterprises maybe don't have a lot of money. They've only got 50 to 100 employees. They cannot afford an IT expert. They cannot afford to have a PBX or voice lines. They cannot afford to have all this customer relationship management systems. And so instead, we encourage the telcos to build a data center and offer those applications to those small medium enterprises more cost effectively. So there's two models. We go after large enterprises directly, but we also go after small and medium enterprises through the telcos and encourage their business to grow. Ultimately, it comes down to a decision inside the country itself, specifically with the NBTC. So always aggressively pursuing 3G opportunities, and as well we have a trial network associated with AIS. In terms of when something like that would launch commercially, it really depends on the market. I'm sure that given the dynamics of mobile data in Thailand, that will happen sooner than later, but we really can't even predict when that might happen. But we do see that in 2012 and 2013, we expect much more investment in the mobile data infrastructure across all telco players. But like I said previously, it's really tied up between governments, and it's a decision that's outside of our hands for the most part. Always aggressively pursuing any tablet opportunities we can, because we do think We have the manufacturing scale to be highly competitive. We have the innovative technology to produce these machines and really stimulate the 3G, 4G growth. But in terms of what happens here, it's really tied up with the government decision. Maybe in recent years, prior to 2010, Huawei has always made devices for a good long time. But prior to 2010, we normally did it as white label devices, which meant we would approach telco players. The telcos would put their logo on it and sell it as their device. There was a decision made about a year ago, which I think might be why there's confusion about the date. So in 2010 is when Huawei decided to really push forward with our own branding and expand our market with the mobile devices. And that's when we decided to go to market directly with our own brand. So now we are going directly as Huawei to the end users. We will still be sold in some cases through telco operators, but you will see our brand appear on the devices. So for example, it might on the back say Huawei powered by AIS. But we're trying to take a bigger chunk out of that pie. And as I said, the idea is to be in the top 3 in the very near future with our devices.